Hey everybody, I'm Joe Killinger. I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur, and we put these videos together every week to give you all the tips and insights from my experience over the last several years. So make sure you tune in and subscribe, and thank you. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Today I've got a very special guest. Jessica Mausers with the CEO of Elite Associates up in the East Bay, Northern California. Jessica, thank you for coming on today.
Hi, Joe. How we doing?
Good. Struggling today, actually, so I appreciate you being patient.
No problem. Got my coffee. I got nothing but time, so I blocked out.
All right, well, good. That's because we're probably going to need it because we got a hot topic, logistics. I was on a Clubhouse meeting about a month ago, and I was on there and I heard Jessica talking about logistics. And then so that got me to do a little bit of research. And I started looking at, be prepared for these. I did some homework.
Oh, good.
This doesn't happen very often. So,
Love
but quarter one to quarter two in 2020, e-commerce revenue jumped 45%. That's a big number as we're going into the pandemic. In 2019, online sales totaled $602 billion, and that by 2025, that'll probably hit about $1.5 trillion. That means the amount of warehouse space that's going to have to be built is astonishing.
It is.
Here's the one that really got me. By 2045, total freight is projected to reach 27 billion tons, while the value is expected to grow to $38 trillion.
Some big numbers.
As an investor, that's attractive.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. And it's funny you say that as an investor because being a broker, and I have mainly worked retail for my 15-year career. I do some industrial flex as well, both tenant rep and landlord rep. So I kind of stretch both specialty types. But as an investor, I'm starting to go out and make my own purchases now. And the product type that I'm drawn to as an investor is industrial. And that is how actually our conversation got started, because I've kind of immersed, I've always liked industrial. I thought it's as a landlord, it's easy to own. You don't have big tenant improvements that necessarily go into these spaces now with the way, we'll kind of touch on it later, but with the way industrial is actually evolving in the development, there probably will be more TIs into these deals. But traditionally, these are very easy to own buildings. They have low CAMs, low taxes, because the amount of revenue they're generating isn't going to be a $3 a square foot building like a retail building. So they're easier entry points to get into as well. So I really like the industrial product as, especially a first time owner, or you want something that's a little hands off. They lease quickly. They're just good functional. And so that's how my whole plight began, is, okay, if I'm going to start investing, where do I start investing? And for me, before I actually throw my money out there, I want to know what the long-term viability of this product type is going to be. I obviously know retail inside and out. So that got me to reading. And anytime I get into reading, I somehow end up down a rabbit hole.
That's a good agent will. That's a good investor. And I just think, which brings us to, logistics is the key to a lot of this. We get people that want to own, they just say, I want to own industrial warehouse.
Industrial,
and but they're not understanding a lot of it. Well, obviously the bigger institutional people are looking at logistics, but you've got to really take a look at these. Where is the inventory coming from? Where is it going to go to? And
exactly. All industrial is not created equal. And I think that that's kind of what you and I touched on, and what really sparked this conversation for those who are watching now. When you talk about industrial is the belle of the ball right now. Everybody wants industrial because it is perceived as the safe play. And it is in many cases. But when I've been doing my research, I have found that truly not all industrial is equal. And just throwing money into industrial because that seems to be the wave and industrial is doing well may not necessarily, especially if you're a first-time investor or you've never invested in industrial previously, probably isn't as safe as you may think it's going to be. So when I started looking, I kind of replicated what I know about my industrial market. I'm in the SF Bay area, so we have the Oakland port, and I know around Oakland, the industrial market is very tight. Well, why is that? Well, okay, we're a port city, so we've got this port. Well, what does that mean? What is coming here? And then what is the path of travel? And that kind of jumps into logistics and what's happening in the shipping world. And the shipping world really came to me because of what's happening in Long Beach right now. In Long Beach, I believe there are 17 cargo ships sitting off. And I was in Huntington Beach a few weeks ago, and you could see them sitting out there. But there currently are 17 cargo ships sitting off the coast waiting to unload. And what's happened is these cargo ships have gotten so big, they take longer to unload. And then you have the impaction from this 45% rise in e-commerce, right? And so at one point, there were 30 ships sitting outside of Long Beach. So the ports are taking in so many goods, they have to get them back out. And right now, we can't even on the West Coast adequately offload these ships. So ships are literally sitting out there. And so what does that mean, and how does that impact really e-commerce across the country? Because those goods have to go from ship to a train or a truck to their next mode to get other places. And if you're sitting in the middle of the country, say Colorado, if you're up in Idaho, which is where a lot of California's population is shifted to, how are they getting their goods? Well, they're getting their goods most likely through the Port of Oakland, and then it's going onto a truck. And then from that truck's probably taken to a warehouse. It's then being sorted. Maybe it's a 3PL, maybe wherever it's going. And then it's heading out to wherever it needs to go. But that's what makes this market unique is you have both a last mile distribution need because you're at an urban population, but then you're also taking in goods for almost the whole West region at that juncture.
Yeah.
That to me was like, where can I find that? Because now you're not just dealing in last mile distribution, but you have kind of two modes of commerce and two modes of logistics happening, that the chances, the probability of needing more inventory are an absolute. There's just no way around it. And so that's kind of where my path began in the research of industrial and logistics, which opened up a very interesting conversation into what's happening with the Panama Canal. Back in 2016, the Panama Canal was expanded. And what that did is it allowed some of these larger container ships to get through the Panama Canal, and they were able to divert either to the East Coast or they come into the Gulf Coast states. And that's created some expansion along the Gulf Coast states. Most notably is Walmart's expansion along the Gulf. So they bring in 43,000 TEUs, which is basically a container, one container from a ship, 43,000 of those just through Houston alone each year. 43,000. That's a lot. And then they also went into Mobile and they went into Tampa. And the other port that when you look at in terms of growth that's getting bigger is in Louisiana. So you're really starting to see a lot of growth along the Gulf, and that is because directly the Panama Canal expansion. And so it's cheaper to keep goods on a ship. It just is. So the question then becomes, if you're having all these backups on the West Coast, all these ships are sitting out at sea, are they going to start diverting to the Panama Canal? And if they are, where is the easiest place to get those goods to then get it to the major populations? And so that is a very interesting conversation. It's a very interesting part of commercial real estate and industrial that nobody really thinks about or talks about. I'll have this conversation with really seasoned industrial brokers. And I'll say, hey, what's happening in the Port of Houston? They're like, Dallas Fort Worth is doing great.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is the backbone to industrial. And that if you really want to understand what you're buying as an investor, and if you like this product type, I think it's a really important thing to understand what exactly is happening with distribution as a whole, because it will change the way you look at real estate, especially industrial, in each market.
Well, you have to also look at, the ports being the key is if you're going to build industrial, I believe we were on one of these calls we were on, 30 million square feet is what Amazon owns in occupies in New Jersey alone.
New Jersey alone.
They've
which
got
is
to
the
have
largest
that much
port on the
footage.
East Coast.
They've got to have those ports tied up, don't
They
they?
do. Absolutely. And New Jersey is that port there is actually the largest port on the East Coast. And so by volume. And
Right.
the fact that they have 30 million square feet in and around New Jersey alone is pretty astonishing when you start to think about it. The other big port on that coast is Savannah, and Savannah by size, in terms of the amount, the size of ships they can take in, they will be, and probably are at this point, the biggest port on the East Coast. The problem with
Right.
Savannah is Savannah is made for the big container ships. I mean, these are the 14,000, the 18,000, and the 20,000 is there's only, I think, a handful of those. That's what got stuck in the Suez Canal a couple weeks ago, right? So
Right.
if you've got one of those, you're really going to Savannah. And everything in that Savannah market, when you start looking at product, is 1 million square feet or more. And so you have all these big hitters. That's their main place that they're bringing goods into. And then it's basically a sorting center from there. And then it'll get shipped to other smaller warehouse or other centers. But Savannah is a tough logistic location because you're 2 hours from any urban areas. So does it work for last mile? It doesn't. Savannah isn't a last mile. So if you're looking, oh, I want to go buy it at Savannah, your play is going to be different than, say, a Long Beach or an Oakland or even a Charleston. Charleston has a very big port, but they are more of a last mile. They're able to get out to large population bases fairly quickly. And that's one of the reasons Charleston's port has grown exponentially. So all of these industrial markets are all really different. It's not a one size fits all. And, I think we get a little spoiled in retail because we're able to say, okay, well, what are the traffic counts? What are the demographics? What is the income, and what is the provisions of the operating expenses? How much CAMs can I pass down? What are my admin fees? You can pick that, you can have that play, and you can go stick it down in any market. So long as it checks your boxes, you pretty much
Sure.
know what you're getting. Whereas I think industrial people don't actually give it enough credit for being each market being different from the next.
Of course. Are you hearing a lot about last mile?
Oh yeah.
That seems to be something in our office. What's that?
Word right now. Everybody loves last mile. Everybody throws around last mile like, hey, I got this last mile. It's like the new
Exactly.
the new tagline in commercial real estate. Come on, if you don't know last mile, like, who are you in commercial real estate? It's so funny. It makes
Exactly. Yeah, it's something that we get calls a good amount on, but
yeah,
our
but
inventory and
last mile is you're able to get to an urban population within an hour. Because right now, what's happening is it's these 1 day delivery times, 1 and 2 day delivery times. And that's where last mile becomes important. Because if you're going to compete with Amazon, who is the behemoth in the room, you have to be able to compete with their delivery times. And so that's what's pushing so much of this last mile distribution. And that, I think, is somewhere that COVID pushed us into, that we were already down the path, but it sped up the process of getting goods to people faster. Because again, going back to that 45% jump, I mean, you have to get goods to people faster. Now, had we have not had COVID, would we see the shift in the market for the need for last mile distribution centers as strong? I think it would definitely be there, but it wouldn't have forced the hand that it did. And COVID forced the hand of, yes, last mile is an absolute must, and it's a must right now, not in a year from now.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you see the biggest risk in logistics for investors right now?
The biggest risk, I'm going to say, we've talked about this. It's kind of the other buzz around commercial real estate right now is construction costs. Construction costs are skyrocketing. The cost of lumber, the cost of steel, the cost of construction is astronomical. It's gone up over the last year. And I don't see the prices of steel and lumber and any of that coming down because there is so much product being built. So I think if you are an investor and you're looking at ground up deals, whether that's being part of a group who's investing in something or thinking, hey, I can go do a build to suit, and you're going to take on that risk. I think that's going to be a really tough spot to be because your numbers are going to fluctuate and we can't control the cost of things. So what you maybe perform a deal today, in 9 months, once you've got your entitlements and you're breaking ground and you're getting that building up, those costs could have completely changed on you. So I think if you're an investor, especially if you are new to the industrial world or a smaller portfolio owner, you should be concentrating on the smaller existing deals in the market, and get yourself out of the risk in terms of the construction side of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at some of the lumber costs. I guess they highest they've ever been on last Friday. So
yeah, it's pretty incredible, the cost of. I
yeah.
mean, I just redid a deck in my backyard, and I was shocked at just the material cost. I'm like, wait, what? It was definitely more than my labor was on the job. So yeah, everybody feels the cost of lumber one way. Any construction, home construction, commercial
Yeah.
construction, it's universally affecting everybody. So
Yeah, I agree. Well, Jessica, thank you very much for doing this today. I think we all learned a lot from you. And I know that you are an industrial investor, so I hope that you find something out there or you build it, and hopefully everybody will come and you find a lot of success. For everybody, I'm going to put Jessica's link down below. Make sure you can go on and you can contact her directly or go through DM Meet, and I will put you in direct contact whenever you have any questions. So, Jessica, thank you very much.
thank you. Always great to chat with you. And happy Monday.